Hello everyone. Can you hear me? Please type yes in the chat box if you can hear me well. Okay, perfect. We will wait more 5 minutes just to give more time for people to join. Thanks for your patience. Okay, since many of you asked about the webinar certificate, it will be generated automatically on our website. You can visit the same webinar page tomorrow and you will find it generated. Okay, it's time to start our presentation. Hello, everyone, and welcome to OPA. Welcome to the 91st free webinar titled Black Oil PVT Modeling, presented by instructor engineer Mohammed Bahai Eldin. He is a reservoir engineer and petroleum fluids expert with over a decade of experience in fluid property characterization, laboratory procedures, PVT simulation, regression, and equation of state modeling. He is the founder and team leader of PVT Solver. The PVT Solver software has helped hundreds of oil and gas industry professionals build representative models of the reservoir fluids. And thousands of people use PVT Solver's free online calculators, and hundreds use the free trial software. Before we start our session, I will make a small presentation about OPA upcoming service and plans. For the first time in OPA, we will conduct 2 waves instead of 1, 12th and 13th wave of live courses, starting in November and ends in February. We will have 7 courses, Advanced Practical Reservoir Simulation, OSHA General Industry, Power BI in Oil and Gas, Coil Tubing Operations, Carbonate Reservoir Modeling, PCB Design Operations and Troubleshooting, and finally, NMR Interpretation and Theory. Our live courses are very interactive. You will also get lifetime access for recordings. You will be in technical WhatsApp group for course discussions and inquiries. And not to mention that the online credential verification service that will be on our website. You can scan this QR code to register in our upcoming courses. And we have conducted more than 40 live courses, which is now converted into recording courses and available in sales in Reservoir Engineering Bundle, G&G, Rig and Rigless Operations, Production Technology, and so on. You can also scan this QR code to register in our recorded courses. Here is another OPA service called Mentorship. It's basically a one-to-one mentoring session by highly experienced mentors. It's like a tailored program based on your needs. Your request can include practicing on how to produce output results from a software, explaining the know-how of a software, guiding on personal data, professional guiding for PhD and master. We have also completed more than 45 mentorship program with more than 900 learning hours, and the mentees were from more than 8 different countries. You can scan this QR code to apply for a mentorship program. Here's a glance of our OPA website, www.opacourses.com. You can access every service we have talked about, whether it's a live course, recorded course, apply for a mentorship program, apply for an internship program, or even join our free webinars. Make sure you give it a visit. So how to be an OPA ambassador? There are 2 tracks to join our OPA ambassadors community. Take 1 or more courses, or just take a mentorship program. So what will you get from being an OPA ambassador? You will get discounts on all courses and group discounts when you invite your friends. Here is something exclusive for the webinar attendees. There will be a quiz at the end of the session. You will get a 20% discount on the PVT Solver software. You will acquire the lifetime license of PVT Solver Premium software. You will only pay $140 instead of $175. You will only pay once and use the software forever. There is no any subscriptions or hidden fees. So I've come to an end of my presentation, and now it's time for our session. Engineer Muhammad, the mic is yours.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, OPA, for introducing me. I'm gonna share my screen right now. One moment, please. Can you see my screen now?
It's very clear.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to introduce some features of PVT solver software. We are going to discuss black oil PVT modeling, and it's widely used by professionals in the oil and gas industry. Specifically, we're gonna go through best practices for predicting reservoir fluid properties. So let's get started. 4 points will be covered today in the webinar. First, why black oil PVT modeling, when to apply, what are the assumptions, the limitations, how to define it, and so on. Next, we are going to go in deep into input data to a black oil PVT model and how to make sure that your model is representative by inputting representative data. Then see black oil PVT modeling when lab data is available, how to calibrate or validate your model using actual laboratory or experimental data. That's our third point. The building a representative black oil model. We're gonna apply a black oil, for example, an example black oil model into our software and see what are the inputs, what are the outputs, how to make the most benefit from it. So let's get started. First of all, why black oil PVT modeling? In order to start or initiate a black oil PVT model, we have to understand the logic behind it. It's a very simplified, very simplified approach used to describe the behavior of reservoir fluids, especially oil and gas. And in order to describe oil and gas, you need to make sure that your inputs are varying versus pressure and temperature. So once the conditions, reservoir conditions are changing, pressure and temperature, you need to have a prediction scenario for your fluid properties. So to simplify the approach, we only have just two pseudo components: single phase oil, liquids, and single phase gas, and that's it. The assumptions, to be clear, first of all, you need to understand that's just two-phase system, oil and gas. And the composition is constant. The composition is assumed to be constant for the oil and for the gas. And that's why you can't consider retrograde condensation. So when applying a black oil PVT model on a retrograde gas, you need to understand its limitations because it does not count for retrograde condensation. Number 4 of the assumptions, constant surface densities. The surface density of the oil and the surface density of the gas coming out of separator or stock tank is constant, and this is assumption. And we also assume that the surface separator conditions are constant. Constant temperature. The temperature of the reservoir is also assumed to be constant. So there are too much assumptions in a black oil PVT model. However, we have too much advantages as well. First of all, reduced complexity. A lot of models are treated as a black oil PVT models, not compositional or even modified black oils, because it's simplicity, faster simulation times, and that's why when using reservoir simulators, most of engineers rely on black oil models in order to save time, the running time. Established methodology, a lot of established correlations along all over decades are established, starting from 1947 standing, Vasquez peaks, and too many correlations are already established. And that's why reliable predictions are available for that model. Okay. So the next question is, what are the limitations of the black oil PVT model? Limited phase behavior, it cannot predict the phase behavior because, as we said, it's a constant composition model, and it's very sensitive to input data. That's why you need to make sure that your input data are representative. Third limitation, it's not for complex reservoirs, such enhanced oil recovery, chemical flooding, retrograde gas, near critical fluids, and so on. However, there are a lot of applications for a black oil PVT model. It can estimate reserves used in production forecasting, well performance analysis, reservoir simulation, and field development planning. So, beside its limitations, a lot of engineers prefer using black oil PVT modeling. Okay. Now, what are the input data to build a representative black oil PVT model? First of all, you need to understand that before building a black oil PVT model, you need to set up options. First of all, you need to classify your reservoir fluids. Is it black oil, dry gas, or wet gas? The first approach is to identify your initial producing gas oil ratio or gas liquid ratio, and thus you can classify your reservoir fluid beside the composition of the heptanes plus. It also helps in the classification of your reservoir fluids. So the first step is to identify your reservoir fluid type. Is it black oil, dry gas, or wet gas? By the way, when modeling black oil, by default, the software would model dry gas as well, because black oil essentially contains dissolved dry gas. Okay? Formation water, you need to identify or determine if your reservoir fluid is associated with formation water or not. And that's easily can be identified from your log analyst, from the open hole log, specifically resistivity log. Fluid composition. You need to input to your software the composition if available, and if not available, you can rely on limited field data. Fourth, laboratory data. If you have a laboratory data, you need to input your laboratory data for formation volume factor, solution gas to oil ratio, oil viscosity, and so on. So in case lab data is available, you will need to input specific data away from the specific data that you need to input for not available lab data. So you need to set up your model and select each option of these four. In the case where the composition is not known, now we can display the input data that you have to input into the software in the case of composition is not known. First of all, in the case of black oil, you would need to enter oil gravity, specific gravity of the stock tank oil. You would need to input gas oil ratio at initial conditions, at reservoir pressures, at bubble point pressure or higher. You would need to input gas specific gravity from the separator, and you would need to input gas impurities such as hydrogen sulfide, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen. In the case for wet gas, if you classify your reservoir fluid as a wet gas, you would need to input condensate gravity from the stock tank. You would need to input gas condensate ratio, gas gravity, and gas impurities as well. In the case where you identify your reservoir fluid as a dry gas, you would need to input just gas gravity and gas impurities as a molar fraction. Beside these hydrocarbon reservoirs, if you detect the formation water, you just need to enter its salinity, salt concentration of the water. By the way, the salt concentration of the water is better obtained from RW water resistivity because it represents the case at the reservoir. Downhole salinity is almost not the same as the salinity of the water obtained from the wellheads because of the salt precipitation in the wellbore. So the best practice to obtain water salinity is from your log analysts from water resistivity, RW, which is the resistivity below the oil-water contact. What if the composition is known? If the composition is known, you definitely will get a more representative model, more accurate model for your reservoir fluid, and it could be used in dry gas and wet gas as well. For dry gas, you would need to input the composition of separator gas, the content of gas impurities, H2S, CO2, N2, and properties of heptanes plus, which is molecular weight and specific gravity. Same for wet gas. For wet gas, you would need to input the composition of separator fluids, gas stream and oil stream, or condensate stream, content of impurities, properties of heptanes plus, and separator conditions, which are temperature, pressure, and gas condensate ratio. That way you would need, or the software will make a recombination calculations in order to recombine the separated fluids from the surface to represent or to predict the composition of the reservoir gas. Because as you know, for a wet gas, the reservoir fluid is a single phase gas. But when getting on the surface, it becomes condensate and gas. So it condensates in the surface only. So the objective of the recombination calculations is to predict the composition of the wet gas in the reservoir. And that's why you need to input these data. Now, what if your lab data is available? How could you calibrate or validate your PVT model in the case where your lab data is available? First of all, you would need to plot lab data and correlations. It will help if you can visualize how the calculated properties are biased from the laboratory measure data. So you would need to identify the mismatch between model data and actual properties. And this is the first step, and it's very important to visualize the mismatch. Step 2 is to fit all correlations to lab data. In order to achieve this, you would need to create or calculate matching modifiers, which are multiplier and shift, using linear regression. So all you have to do is to minimize the mismatch between the simulated or calculated data to make it much closer to the observed data. Step 3 is to select the best fit correlation. The best fit correlation is the correlations that have the minimum average absolute relative error between lab data and original correlations. This one will be used for further prediction calculations. So quick steps, very clear steps for validating your black oil PVT model in the case where lab data are available. Now, let's get started with a case study to apply to the software. The fluid is described as a black oil and formation water is detected. Fluid composition is not known, but laboratory data are available. And here's the field data. Separator is single stage where no more gas is separated from the stock tank. Oil gravity equal to 19.45 degrees API, gas oil ratio 259 scuff per stock tank barrel, gas gravity 0.711, and here is the content of gas impurities, H2S, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and the water salinity is 187,000 ppm. So let's get started. I have just opened the software. Can you see my screen? Okay, you can see my screen. Okay, great. So we're gonna build an example black oil PVT model using PVT solver. And this is the interface of the software. By clicking options, we'll set up the model. First of all, we need to select the fluid type, whether it's black oil, dry gas, or wet gas. So in our case, we're gonna select the black oil. As you know, the gas oil ratio of black oil is initially 1500 SCF per stock tank barrel or lower. And its solution gas is classified as dry gas. Therefore, dry gas calculations are applied as well when you select the black oil. And then formation water, regarding the formation water, as per example, it has been detected. So we can click here. Fluid composition is not known, and laboratory data are available. So now we can click on data. Here we go. Input data for the oil gravity. Let's clear it all. Input data for the oil gravity, 19.45. Gas oil ratio, 259. Gas gravity, 0.711. From here. Sorry. Okay. Okay, nitrogen is 0 and salt concentration is 187. Here we go. So we have just input our field data for a single stage system of separation. By the way, the single stage system of separation assumes that no additional gas is separated from the oil in the stock tank. However, the two-stage system accounts for the amount and properties of the stock tank gas. So in our case, it's a single stage system of separation. By clicking on lab data, let's clear it all. We would need to input our laboratory data. So in our case, we're gonna use the preset data, and we are going to input solution gas oil ratio, oil formation volume factor, oil viscosity, gas viscosity, and gas formation volume factor. So let's use the preset. Here we go. Here's the preset. Pressure ranges from 3000s to 100s. Here's the pressure. And here's solution gas oil ratio. You can see it here. Automatically plotted. Here it's viscosity. Here's formation volume factor. You can also display the dry gas properties, formation volume factor of the gas plotted, and viscosity also plotted. Bubble point pressure, 1960. This one, constant versus pressure, as usual. By clicking match, select all. By clicking on match tab, you will have the opportunity to match all your lab data in order to minimize the mismatch between laboratory or experimental data and simulated data. So that's how the interface displays. You got A and B. A is a multiplier, matching modifier multiplier, and B is the shift to the model or the correlation. So one click on match all will definitely at no time will make the correlation almost the same as the observed data. So as you know, all the values for A and B are already modified, and that's how it's very efficient in order to match your model to lab data. Very efficient and very quick. The third step is to select the optimum or best fit correlations by clicking best fits. The software automatically selects the best fit correlation based on the minimum mismatch between the observed data and correlation. Now let's do the same for the dry gas. Properties are plotted. Simulated data versus lab data. For example, gas formation volume factor is calculated using DEC, Hall, and Brill, and gas viscosity is calculated using Lee, London, and Sutton. 3 correlations here and 3 correlations there by clicking Match All. Let's get closer to it. By clicking Match All, the correlations are tending to get closer to the observed data by changing A and B. A is the matching modifier multiplier, and B is the matching modifier for the shift. Okay, you can see it here. Select all, reset all by one click. Example. By one click, all correlations are tend to get close to the observed data by changing A and B. Okay. So dry gas now. Let's select best match. Dry gas best match. That's why all properties are matched for black oil and for dry gas. By clicking calculate, you can calculate any property using any correlation, but the automatic correlation selected is the one with the minimum mismatch error. So that way you can calculate from 500 to 5000 bubble point pressure, solution gas oil ratio, formation volume factor, viscosity, density, isothermal compressibility, total formation volume factor, gas oil interfacial tension. All PVT properties are calculated. Dry gas as well, calculated. All water properties calculated. By the way, the water properties are calculated using 2 authors or 2 correlations. IAPWS, which is more reliable and more efficient, and McKean correlations. All correlations are calculated. Okay, you can display untabulated data. For example, you can display black oil data. Let's make it 20, 500, and 5000, for example. So the bubble point pressure is calculated using the standing correlation with these matching modifiers. The RS is calculated using lasso with these matching modifiers, and this is the best fit correlation for the RS, and so on. Now, what if we stop or not validating the model with a specific lab data? There will be a huge difference in results. So inputting lab data and validating using lab data is very, very important. So if you get back to options and click on not available lab data, then click on data. Let's use a preset, same preset, and calculate. Back to field data, you'll see that a huge difference in the bubble point pressure. Some correlations, 2000s for example for Valco, and 2600s for Glasso. 600 psi difference between the minimum and maximum, and that's why we always recommend to use matching data or input your lab data in order to validate and calibrate your black oil model. So there is a lot of correlations to apply, but the question is, what is the best fit correlation for your model? And that's why we always recommend using lab data. So you can see the difference here as well. Viscosity. One more thing is you can apply a specific bubble point pressure. For example, you can, if the district engineer in the field could identify the bubble point pressure from production data, and say it's 2075. So in that way, the software allow you to input a specific value for the bubble point pressure. And that's why all correlations will follow that value and apply it. Okay. In that case, you can calculate other properties independent on the value of the bubble point pressure because it's already as an input. Then that's very, very efficient approach in order to minimize the uncertainty of your model. One more thing, what if you have a two-stage system of separation? If you have a two-stage system of separation, you would need to identify the properties of stock tank gas, and if the properties of the stock tank gas are not known, you would need to input your separator conditions. So actually you have three scenarios in the case of the two-stage separators used. Two-stage separator means that more gas is separated from the stock tank, and that's why you need to input whether properties of stock tank gas, that way, oil gravity from the stock tank, gas-oil ratio, gas gravity, and separator, gas-oil ratio, gas impurities, and gas gravity. And if the properties of the stock tank gas is not known, you would need to input the separator conditions. Here we go, which is temperature and pressure. This is the difference. What if you don't have even neither properties of stock tank gas nor separator conditions? The software will use a correlation in order to account for the more gas that has been separated from the stock tank. So you can also use that case. So you have three scenarios when applying two-stage system of separation. You would need to identify based on your input data available. You can change units here as well. You can use field units or metric units or even custom units. You can select manually the system of units that has been used in your field. You can filter here between gas, oil, and water. Let's back to the field. You can also display all reference correlations, all used correlations sorted by the fluid type in use and the PVT property, bubble point pressure, solution gas oil ratio, formation volume factor, and so on for black oil, dry gas, and formation water. Dozens of correlations has been embedded into the software. Here is user guide for any help, support. You can follow the steps here as well. Very clear, very straightforward. So to cut it short, in summary, I would like to focus on the features main model setup here. You have three fluid types. You have the option to input your fluid composition in order to create more representative fluid model. You have the option to input the formation water salinity to account for the properties of the of your aquifer. If your lab data is available, it's recommended to input your lab data in order to calibrate your model. And that's it. Thank you so much. Okay, if you have any questions, please type on the chat and I will be happy to respond.
Hello, everyone. Please note that the quiz will be available for only 10 minutes. So make sure you complete the quiz before the time ends.